Hello, viewers. I welcome you to at the Okoromi channel. Today, we are having someone in our midst who has been with us before to talk about the coronavirus, especially talking about the misconception about the coronavirus. It's no other person than Dr. Ini Ekon. You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
My
the,
pleasure to be here.
the last time we thought you explained extensively about the coronavirus and the many misconceptions that people have about the virus. We all know
Yeah.
now, based on events that are happening all over the world, we have now come to realize that coronavirus is real and it has come to stay with us. With,
Yeah.
with the incident happening in places like India, Brazil, Americans, and all these other parts of the world. But today, I would like to question you on some other things, especially the variants. What
Okay.
is the variant? What is it all about? What because we hear of different variants now today. We hear Indian variant. We hear what is the variant really all about?
Okay. Thank you very much. So basically, as this virus is being transmitted from person to person,
Okay.
it keeps on replicating and making copies of itself.
Okay.
Sometimes there might be some changes in the copies. Just look at it like a factory, maybe that is producing something.
Okay.
Sometimes you see factory error inputs. Once you're mass producing something, there will most likely be some changes as those things are being produced.
Okay.
So that factory error input is what is regarded as mutation. Those changes within the copies.
Okay.
So a virus with one or more new mutation is referred to as a variant of the original virus.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So most of the mutations are of no serious consequence, but sometimes this mutation also gives advantage to the new strain of the virus.
Okay.
Like it's been observed that some of the new variants tend to show that the virus has a better capacity to spread more easily, or sometimes to even make people more sick, or to make it more resistant to treatment.
Okay.
Like that has been reported during this COVID pandemic.
Okay.
So basically, that's what a variant is all about.
Okay. So how are the variants? How are they classified? From what you've said now, so how do we classify the variants?
Okay, so basically there are three major classifications of variants.
Okay.
One is the variant of interest,
Okay.
or variant of concern, and the last one, variant of high consequence.
Okay.
So this represents the different maturity level,
Okay.
or potential maturity level of the COVID or other viral variants. So, for instance, the variant of interest, in that one shows that there's a presence of certain factors associated with potential disease transmission, or that can affect the diagnostics or the immune response, or treatment. So this one shows there are some what we call genetic markers. Some of the just that potential, if they have those genetic markers that tend to make them potentially more transmissive or resistant to treatment or evade immune response. Those ones are called variants of interest. It's just potential, but it's not actually documented. So, but that's where you have quite a number of the variants, that we currently have now as variants of interest.
Okay.
But once they begin to show evidence that beyond that potential now, there's evidence that there's increased rate of transmission, or there's more severe disease, or there's a reduction in susceptibility to either antibodies, vaccines, or treatment, or in some cases even diagnosis, then they are being regarded as variants of concern.
Okay.
So you have a number of variants right now, because the WHO, the CDC, and other responsible agencies are constantly monitoring these variants.
Okay.
So many countries are sequencing the variants and then document them. So there's a world body, WHO or CDC, coordinating all these variants. So sometimes you see some variants. That's why the history, the generation of variants can be traced. I think maybe when we talk about the types of variants, you'll be able to understand that. So for variants of concern, when there's evidence of all these factors,
okay,
then there's a variant of high consequence. There's a variant of high consequence. In this one, there is clear evidence. The first variant of interest, you said there's that potential.
Yeah.
In variant of concern, there's evidence.
Okay.
But in the variant of high consequence, there is clear evidence that there is total failure of diagnostics. Sometimes you can't diagnose it, or even significant reduction in vaccine effectiveness, or severe clinical disease, increased transmission, and all that.
Oh.
So those ones are the ones that are regarded as variant of high consequence. But luckily, presently, there's no reported, variant of high consequence at the moment.
Okay.
But there are a lot of variants of interest with that potential, and then a few of them also have demonstrated evidence of the increased transmission or severe disease or evading treatment or vaccination.
Okay. Wow. That's very, very clear one there. So what are the examples of some of these common variants then, if that's the case?
Okay, so there are a few common, there are quite a lot of variants that have been isolated,
okay,
or sequenced all over the world.
Okay.
But like we said before, most of them, those changes, are not, have no consequence.
Okay.
All right, some of them is just copy factory error, but it doesn't really have a deleterious consequence on human transmission. But there are few that have been quite significantly been studied and have shown some of the different characteristics of the other variant of interest or concern that we just described. So we have they are being classified in strains or lineages.
Okay.
So you have the lineage B1351 identified in South Africa.
Okay.
This one clearly shows evidence of increased transmissibility. The transmission is faster, and then there are possible adverse illnesses in young and healthy individuals.
Okay.
So like initially, the COVID, the impact was less in the younger people, but this lineage in South Africa has shown not just the fact that it can transmit faster, but it also affects more of the younger and the healthy people. There is another very common, I think it's one of the most widely spread variant, is the one identified in the UK, which is of the lineage B117. It was a lot of demonstrated outbreaks around London and the Kent area and some other UK counties. This one showed fourfold increase in the cases just within a period of 10 weeks.
Wow.
It did times 4 when compared to the periods before which this variant was isolated. It showed that the rate of infection increased more than 4 times, and that was just within 10 weeks, So, in fact, when compared to the other variants, it's shown to be 70% more transmissible than other strains, and keeps on changing to even more other variants. And then also there's a variant that is commonly associated with Brazil. That's of the lineage P1.
Okay.
That one also actually was identified in travelers from Brazil to Japan. Okay. And then that period where it was first sequenced coincided with a period of resurgence of infections, rapid increase of the number of hospitalized cases just around January, and as well as reinfection,
okay,
was also shown to be associated with this lineage. So, apart beyond the high transmission, there's also an evidence that this has the potential to escape the immune system. A lot of studies are still going on. And of course, if it escapes the immune system, there is likelihood that the vaccine efficacy for this lineage might be significantly reduced.
Okay.
So then the other one variant that I would like to talk about is the one that is identified in India. I'm sure we know what has been happening in India in the last few months.
A very high risk area.
Yeah. So that has also been associated to that high transmission or high rates of increase in the cases detected has been associated with a COVID variant of the lineage B1617. That was actually first detected in the U.S. between late February and March of this year.
Okay.
And this one even shows that it's more remember we said the transmission rates of the UK variant is 70% more than other strains.
Yeah.
But this Indian variant has shown to be even more transmissible than that. So that's why you see we saw so many reported cases within a short period in India, and also the mortality that was associated with it. So in the nutshell, those are the most common examples of the variants around the world, even though there are so many thousands of other variants that have been isolated, but most of them are mainly variants of interest. They've not really shown any significant interference with some of the dynamics of the COVID transmission.
So, sir, with all this explanation now about the examples of the common variant now, so which one do you think is more transmissible, as the case may be, that we should be more careful about, especially in our country here?
I think from the report so far, even though this a lot of research is still being conducted around all the variants. So presently, every sample that is taken to the lab for diagnosis in some way is being the viruses are isolated. They are being sequenced to know what genome they belong to, so as to see, and there's a lot of communication between most parts of the world in terms of the response to see the generation or the historical trend of this vaccine, to see if there are some relationship. So, but for now, it looks like the Indian variant to me, with some of the studies that have come to the public domain, it looks like the Indian variant is very, very transmissible, more transmissible than all the other identified variants. And it's already been, it's already been isolated in Nigeria.
Wow.
And even in 6 other African countries.
Wow.
So, and it shows you how this virus travels from country to country, from continent to continent, within a very short period of time.
Wow, that's a very big one. So from what we've been hearing so far, we've at least so many persons have been taking vaccine against the virus. So the vaccine available now, does it work against the Indian variant, or what do you have to say?
Okay, so now for India, luckily there's a new study now that has shown that the Pfizer BioNTech vaccine and even the AstraZeneca that we commonly using in Nigeria now, the 2 doses are actually effective against the Indian variant. So that's a very good news. Like I said, studies are still ongoing, but for now there's a study that has shown that I've made that report. Even in Brazil, recently there is a study that also showed that a significant reduction in the transmission rate within some high congested areas of the Brazil, as a result of the vaccination. So there's evidence of vaccine protecting against some of these variants.
Okay, so already now from your explanation, we already have the Indian variant in Nigeria already.
Yes, it's been isolated.
So that means that the federal government should do something like, because the other day I was hearing them saying that they are going to stop flight from India to Nigeria. I don't know whether that is applicable at the moment, or we still have flight coming from there.
Basically, there are specific measures that have already been enforced by government.
Okay.
In terms of if you are flying from some of those parts of the world that have some of the variants of concern, there's a mandatory quarantine being implemented just to be sure that the variant doesn't spread more than it should, or doesn't even come into the country. And a lot has been done. The government has done, has really done well in that respect.
Okay.
In beginning to right from the flights coming from India, making sure that there's a institutional quarantine, of those travelers before, within a specified period of time before they are being allowed to go into the general population.
Okay. So thank you very much, Doctor. So what impact does this new variant of the COVID-19 virus have on the vaccine?
Okay, so basically, like you said now, there are studies showing that these vaccines are still working, can still protect against the new variants.
Okay.
And to be honest, even if it doesn't, even if there's reduction in the protection, it is still enough, to make sure that even people who get infected don't get as ill as they would have been. So the vaccine, however you want to look at it, is very, very important. Particularly it's just not just antibodies, but also cell type of immune response.
Okay.
So it's not just one type. Antibody can just be, building antibodies, but it also has a kind of what we call cell-mediated immunity. So, it gives like kind of double coverage. So it's very difficult for a variant to completely evade some of the vaccines that have been given now.
Okay.
And then also the mutations have not been shown to make the vaccines completely ineffective. Even when they are not as effective, there's still some level of protection that they provide.
Okay.
So, however, there's still a possibility, assuming the protection, the level of effectiveness of the vaccine is slightly reduced as a result of the variant. There's still a possibility that some kind of modification in terms of the composition of the vaccine can be done, and that will give it more efficacy.
Okay.
And maybe probably booster doses can come up, and you understand. So it's all a win-win for vaccination. All the vaccines that are currently being deployed at the moment.
Okay. So what do you think now can be done to prevent further viral mutation based on your explanation?
So basically, the first thing to prevent these variants or mutations of the virus is to stop the spread of it. Remember, the more it replicates, the more it reproduces, the more it makes copies, the more it changes and brings up new variants.
Okay.
So the first and best way to stop new variants emanating is to stop the spread, and that is to adopt all the measures that have been currently being highlighted for reduction in transmission, like the frequent hand washing, wearing of face masks, physical distancing,
sanitizing the hand,
and of course, so those preventive
measures. Okay.
Measures first, So, and of course, rolling out of the vaccination as quickly as possible, because remember, these variants, some of them actually have more effects on those with high risk. That is those who are elderly or who have comorbidities. So the faster we roll out this vaccine, the better for the population in terms of reduction of the mutation, and the more likely it will protect those with the high risk. So if there are new variants, those who don't have high risk, new variants might not really have significant effect on them. But those who are already high risk, they have hypertension or diabetes or any form of immune deficiency, or are aged, they are more likely to be susceptible to the newer COVID variant. So that means that we need to scale up the rate of vaccination to make sure that to not allow the virus opportunity to replicate, and that is true, and also in combination with also not just to relax. We have vaccines, so we no longer take precautionary measures like hand washing, wearing face masks, and physical distancing. So it's a combination of all these that will help to reduce the rate of mutation in the viral transmission. So also there are a couple of other things that can also be done in terms of during the development of these vaccines. There are opportunities to incorporate more than one strain of the virus into the vaccine to give it a broader protection against the viruses. And there might be need for booster doses. Some people have also recommended booster shots
Okay.
That it might be to reinforce the efficacy, in future. And then also, yeah, of course, I talked about scaling up vaccine manufacture and rollout. Then also, yeah, we're prioritizing vaccinating people of high risk first, and then ensuring that there's equitable access to the vaccine.
Okay.
You know that some of the rate of vaccination is really low in the third world. So ensure vaccine equity will allow these areas to scale up their vaccination and reduce the rate of the virus circulation as well as formation of new variants.
Okay. So from your explanation now, it means we've got a lot to do to ensure that to prevent the further spread and the mutation of the virus. We have got a lot to do. So now I would like you to sum it up now. There are still some people out there who still have, based on some beliefs known to them, that they don't feel like taking the vaccine. So what do you feel? What do you think should be? What advice do you have for such people?
My advice is just in one sentence will be knowledge is power.
Okay.
Knowledge is power. If you are well informed, then you have the capacity to promote your health and take good care of yourself.
Okay.
So, not just seeking for information and information from the right source is very critical, in developing attitudes towards acceptance or rejection of vaccination. Like we've been discussing in the past few minutes, it is very, very critical that everyone should receive the vaccine.
Okay.
If we need our world to go back to close to what we had before, then everybody needs to get themselves vaccinated. I remember when amongst even some of the people that knew me, and they were like, "Doctor, I want you to take the vaccine, then we'll observe you for months, and if you are still normal, then we'll go and take our ass." And I've taken it now for months, and I keep on telling people, I'm still here, nothing happened to me, even after taking the vaccine. So a lot of people have gone to take, a lot of people who were waiting, have also gone to take theirs. So my advice is, everybody, government has made this vaccine available free of charge, and it's very, very easy. It's not painful. It doesn't have, there's no serious side effects other than maybe.
Sorry for cutting you, Doctor, but that's one of the things that people are scared of, the side effects. Some of them talk about the side effects and all this.
So of course, there's always side effects, but sometimes you look at the risk benefit, proportion. So you want to see what is the risk of not even taking the vaccine and then probably getting the virus with all these new variants that we're talking about, and you don't know which one you might come in contact, and you might be more sick, or even sometimes it might result in death or so. So when compared to just a simple side effect of maybe just a little pain,
or a few minutes of maybe headache or something.
Yeah. So because from the people who are vaccinated, we've not really the commonest, reported side effect is just, and it's not at that point because the needle is so tiny that you won't even feel any pain when you are receiving it. But maybe a few days later, you might just feel very tiny pain, that goes off. Okay. So these things are and they're insignificant when you compare to the cost of getting the disease and the risk of other mortality resulting from getting the infection. So there's really not in Nigeria. We're not really seeing. Yes, at some point we heard things about blood clots and all that in Europe and all that, but in Nigeria I've not really heard about that here, and I've not seen any serious death related to the vaccination. I've not heard of it in Nigeria here. So, and all the people, all our colleagues and family and friends who have taken this vaccine, nobody even has reported any serious side effects other than that minor pain, maybe a little headache, and a very, very, very insignificant number of people. So,
thank you very much, Doctor, for always coming to our rescue, because since this virus actually came in, you have always been of help. Whenever we call you to enlighten us more, you are always there to help us out. I must confess, I have learned a lot, and I also believe that so many persons who are listening, who are going to be listening to this, they will also learn more. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
And hope when we call you again for updates, you'll always be there to help.
No problem. It will be my pleasure.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Have a blessed day.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
I welcome you all to Badagry Koromi channel. Today we are here in Badagry, this left month, to know more about what happened when our forefathers were taken out of the country. So I'm here, and here with me is Mr. Abiodun, who is going to really help in enlightening us about the slave trade. You're welcome, sir. Welcome to you. So the slave trade,
So my name is Abiodun Mobi. So curator in charge Mobi Slave Relics Museum in Badagry.
Okay.
So in Badagry here, we have a lot of tourist attraction.
Okay.
Number one, we have the Slave Relics Museum, which is where we are now.
Okay.
Number two, and in the Slave Relics Museum, that's where you're going to see the shackles used on slaves during the days of slave trade.
Okay.
After that, we have the first story building in Nigeria as well.
Okay.
We have the slave barracoon, where the slaves were being kept during the days of slave trade.
Okay.
We have an heritage museum, slave markets. So, Badagry was founded 1425, and the slave trade started in Badagry 15 centuries ago.
Okay.
So the trade lasted for good 400 years in Badagry before it was abolished. And all this environment used as a slave corridor. So slave was brought from outside Badagry, from hinterland, like Oyo, Osogbo, Abeokuta, Ibadan, Ondo, different places like that.
Okay.
And during the days of slavery, we have two coasts
In Nigeria.
Okay. We have one in Calabar. Okay. The one in the Calabar called the Enyon Slave Market. And the market was established 1810. In each market day in Calabar, I think 100 slaves have been sold in a day.
Wow.
100 human beings have been sold every market day. Now here in Badagry, we have Vindicated Slave Market, which is VLEKETE. Vindicated Slave Market was established 1502 here in Badagry. It was been found before the Calabar one.
So this one was the first.
Yeah. In each market day here in Badagry, 300 slaves have been sold in a day.
Wow. Higher than that of Calabar.
Yeah, so 17,000 slaves sold annually. And this trade we're talking about lasted for good 400 years in Badagry. So, this place happened to be the way out of our brothers and our sisters in diaspora.
Okay.
So, let's proceed. You are welcome.
Thank you very much.
Shackles used on slave during the days of slave trade. And a slave is a person captured and sold out in exchange to work under tutelage of his masters. Here we have original chain used on slave during the era of slavery. And this chain was brought here by the white men to here around 15 centuries ago, roughly 500 to 600 years now. These very shackles that you're seeing here. At my right side here we have the grave of someone, which is Chief Sumbu Mobi. The man died naturally. His name Chief Sumbu Mobi. He died October 16, 1893. So during his own time, slavery stopped in Badagry, 1886, after the trade lasted 400 years. And Chief Sumbu Mobi's father eventually participated during the days of slave trade. He's one nicknamed Mobi by the white men because kola nut was called Obi in Yoruba. And majority of Badagry indigenous here, we are all migrated from down men, now Benin Republic. So whenever the white people came to buy slave, Chief Sumbu Mobi's father always offered them with a kola nut, spoke to them in our own dialect. Hontoshi, Miya Viro means my white friends take kola nut and eat. Why his own name is very difficult for the white people to pronounce, they said calling him Mobi. So that's where the name Mobi derived from. So when his father died, the one very years survived his father. He took over after the death of his father while the missionary came in. So he got to work with the missionary and slavery stopped through him 1886. Okay. And this is the chief traditional staff of office during his lifetime. Whenever the chief want to go out, one of his daughter will hold this. That is their own tradition. Checking it. So whoever hears the noise, they know that the chief is going out. If it is man, show me this on the way. Man will prostrate, woman will kneel down. That's showing a sign of respect to the chief there. So at my next side here, we call this the neck lock. Each slave has this around the neck, like this. Late MKO Abiola, he was here around 1991.
Okay.
That is during the reparation campaign. That time, Abiola is fighting for reparation and he wants the white people to compensate against we black and say sorry for slavery. But unfortunately, he died during the process. So any slave animal to the white men, they have these chains around the neck like this.
Wow.
Our brothers and our sisters in diasporas, forefather, they have suffered. So another person will have his own and they'll be on the road and the chain will be around the neck like this for good 18 good hours every day.
Wow.
They use the remaining scissors to relax. After fixing these around someone's neck, this was fixed on two people's leg, as in one person's leg here, another person's leg here. They lock it to padlock and two of them continue working, going at the same time at once.
Wow.
This is used on stubborn slave who refuse to work on farm. The force is hands by force, up his wrist. They remove this knot, hang the person up on a very tall tree with one hand, while his two legs will be dangling, punishment for the stubborn slave.
Wow.
This is used on children to guide their babies not to disturb their parents while working on sugarcane plantation.
So children were also slaves. They are also sold as slaves.
They pack their children too.
Wow.
So they have to join 2 or 3 kids together like this. They lock down padlock while their parents busy working on the farm.
Wow.
So this is used on slave mouth to guide them not to eat or to talk to the one another while working on sugarcane plantation. This was used for 3 purposes. The first purpose is to put this object into a fire when it is very, very red hot. They use it to make an hole here.
Wow.
Can you imagine that? It will be both up and down lips like this. After that, they now fix this.
On the mouth.
They draw the lips out very well. They lock it padlock like this or like that. It will guide them not to eat or to talk to the one another while working on sugarcane plantation. The second purpose of using these objects, very small, but it's mighty. The second purpose of using this, any slave trying to run away, or any slave rebel against the white, they use this part to punch his foot, as in his foot will be on top of the falling tree in the fire like this, and then nail it down.
Wow.
So if you watch a movie called The Root, that is Kinta Kunte movie,
okay,
you know what I'm talking about. Try to watch it. The third purpose of using this, slave. Slave has name that they are bearing. But those white people, they are so callous. They don't allow slave to bear their name. They bear the master's name, which is their own name.
Okay.
They put this object into a fire when it is very red hot. They use it to write the name of their masters and their master's nationality at the back of their slave. so that when they go back to their own destination, they can be able to identify which slave is this. So, this called cannon gun. The gun stand as time during the days of slave trade, shot 3 times in a day. Then if they want to show this cannon, gunpowder goes through this hole. They light this small hole with a fire and the cannon will explode. The first shot of this cannon, hearing in the morning, signified that they were taking the slave down to the farm to work, which is across of this water.
Okay.
Second one in the afternoon, they have been narrowed from the farm down to where they normally kept them, called the Brazilian slave barracoon. You see, that barracoon is a Brazilian word. It means jail, cell, or prison.
Okay.
The third shot of this cannon signify a curfew. Everybody in this Badagry must remain indoors. Anybody caught after the third shooting have to face the consequences, mainly so out into slavery. Because during the holding days, all this environment used as a slave corridor. So slaves used to spend like 3 months within this environment before the white people ship them away to the New World, to the places like Cuba, Jamaica, West Indies, Brazil, America, different places like that. So this is the money spent in those days, which is cowries. Cowries, we recognize cowries within ourselves in Africa as money, but the white people, they couldn't recognize cowries as money. In order for them to buy slave, they practice trade by barter. Okay. So they have to brought things like gunpowder, iron, cotton mirror, umbrella, in exchange of human beings. So like then, a bottle of whiskey like this in exchange of 10 able men, 10 slaves.
So this one is able to give you 10 men.
Yes.
Wow.
So right here, this is where the slave normally have their drinking water, called the slave drinking water bowl. When the slave arrive from the farm, they fill out water, they tie their hands back, open their mouth lock with heavy chains around the neck, and ask them to bend down here. They drank like animals. Look up. So let's thank God that we are not yet born during the days of slave trade. So here we have a royal musical instrument found in royal families here in Badagry called a jogan. Whenever king of Badagry or chiefs of Badagry have any ceremony, women use this. As in, women will hold a string, pulling, they'll be singing in our own dialect, which is Ogu. Singing, singing, dancing, making melodious sound to the singing of the musical instrument. Why some of the women will hold these gongs, beating it. So we have a different sound. We have a different sound. So behind me here we have a status. Talks about stubborn castrated slave begging for forgiveness. The word looked very, very horrible. You see, during the days of slave trade, some of the white people settled down here in Badagry with some of their families. So, and then we have two categories of slave. We have the feed slave and we have the domestic slave. Okay. So the white people use some of the male slave at home like a domestic slave. Okay. So in order for such slave to have sexual intercourse with their wife or daughter, they do castrate them. Okay. So that is to say, they do castrate some of the male slave during the era of slavery. So here we have the paintings of a tree. The name of this tree called the historical Agia tree. It was called the historical Asesotin Agia tree. This Asesotin means Agia, which is Badagry, our own dialect. Okay. Asesotin, which is Ogun. So under the shade of this very tree, Christianity was first preached in the whole Nigeria here Badagry in the year 1842 by Thomas Bech Freeman and Henry Townsend, and the first Christmas service in Nigeria was celebrated under the shade of the very tree. So the tree later fell down 1959, and before the tree fell, it spent up to 350 years. There was a monument there today that represents the tree. So, and this is how the slavery was eradicated in different parts of the world. Slavery stopped in the British West Indies 1833, Australia 1861, United States of America 1863, Brazil 1888, Africa 1870, Badagry 1886. After the trade lasted 400 years. And finally, we have a picture shows the first story building in Nigeria, built 1845 by Reverend C.A. Goldman. Inside this building, the African free slave boy, Reverend Bishop Samuel Ajayi Crowder. Ajayi sat down here and translates English Bible into Yoruba. And the Bible that he translated is still there up to date. I think that is all what we have for you in this museum. You are welcome.
Thank you very much.
So this symbolizes how those slaves were being working on sugarcane plantation. Atlantic slaves working in sugarcane plantation. So this is how they work during the era of slavery. And on the floor there, we have a big cannon. Big cannon gun. This cannon was brought in exchange of 100 slaves, which is each of these cannon was brought in exchange of 100 human beings. It was brought to wage war and to get more slaves. Why 50 people cannot lift it up now? That during the days of slave trade, 10 slaves can lift it up.
Wow.
So it was made of melter. Why 50 people cannot lift it up? It is these two cannon, that is 200 human beings. So let's go. So you are welcome back.
Thank you very much.
So here we are now called the slave port. So the slave port in Badagry was established in 16th to 18th centuries. So during the days of slave trade, when those white people had a signal that the big ships arrived from the high sea, they marched those slaves from the Badagry, which is where the slaves have been kept. So they marched them from the Badagry down to this place with heavy chains on the neck, why their mouth with their neck blocked to see yourself. So they marched them down there. So that time, nothing like this people. They used they march them inside the cave. That's how they put them on the side. But they got to the side, they line them up, chain on the neck, the mouth will use the neck. That's the island. Yes, to the seashore. Which is, I think, we are still going there. To the seashore. But on their way going, there was a well on the road. The name of the well called Attenuation Well. When they got to that spot, forced them to drink at the well. After taking the well, they made food aggressive. Now they get to their own country for the business.
So what is so special about it?
I think we have something inside like African magic, conversion, actually in conjunction with the chief and white people.
So it means that in a way, our own people were in support.
Yeah.
They are in support of,
Yeah.
of what
Because
happened.
that time they are in that house. Well, lost their baby. The slave, they just be thinking of them like money. They won't be thinking of where they're coming from. Because we discovered that the first set of slaves that went over, they fight their foot, fight the whites.
Wow.
So then they even turned the ship to a place now called Haiti, in Santo Domingo. So now, and this slave port happened to be the largest slave port in West Africa. This one I can see. So we are moving to the Badagry.
Settled down. And when this man came to Badagry, he was given a title called Seriki. And Seriki means head of Muslims. So that's why the man is wearing Seriki Williams Abbas. So when this man came to Badagry, he also went back to Ogun State where he was captured. He founded 2 towns in Ogun State. He founded Aito in 1902. When you get to Aito today, you will see the status of the man at the roundabout in Aito. Also founded a town called Idogo, also in Ogun State. So I'll talk about the bar later. These are some European products they use in the estate of slaves. In Nigeria, then they spend calories, and the white people cannot use our own money, and that's why they prefer to bring some items they use in the estate of slaves. The value of an umbrella 40 slaves. Before you can have one umbrella, you will need to produce 40 able men.
40 able men.
Yeah.
Wow.
Still have one of the umbrella in our museum up to date. A bottle of gin, 10 slaves. A big can of gun, 100 slaves. While the small can of gun, 40 slaves. Kettle and the bed and the brass dish are the items given to Seriki by the Brazilians as a gift. And Nino doesn't have a specific number. It depends how you can bargain with white people. Ceramic gold, 10 slaves. A chain gold, 40 slaves. The slaves. And this chain is called heavy chain. Heavy chain is meant for the stubborn slaves. Why this one is called Ankuchaku? So this object is called iron drilling bit. An iron drilling bit, they use it to write their name at the back of their slaves in order for them to identify their slaves. Anytime they want to use it, it will be very, very hot. And during that period, most of the slaves die because they cannot bear the pain. So 40 people are coming to this room.
40.
Yeah, 40 people were kept in this inner room before the arrival of the ship. They feed them once in a day. This is where they wee and this is where they poo poo. You can imagine how this place will be messed up there.
40 people.
Yeah, and this is the only ventilation they have in the room. And that's why most of the slaves died because of the heat and the odor. A gramophone record used by Seriki then. And there is one of the bottle of gin they brought there. A brass dish cup and mug cup given to the man by the Brazilians as a gift. And there is the money they use in Nigeria that they can't use. So these are some bowls they use in the exchange of slaves. A value of 1 bowl, 10 slaves. So anybody that needs the 5 bowl, we need to produce 50 slaves. So these are some locally made pots used by Seriki then. This is a water pot and this is a soup pot. Why this one also a water pot?
Our people shouldn't have done what they did to our black brothers. Don't you think somehow that our own people too also contributed somehow?
Sure. Even though when I explain to foreign people, me too, I feel furious. See, you understand? I feel furious. I feel so bad.
We are here in Badagry. We are heading towards the point of no return where the slaves are being taken, and after they cross this side, they are. We are here now to take boats to the point of no return, from where they take the slave, from where they take them to the point of no return. We are heading there now, but it's no longer called the point of no return because people go there now. We are now on a journey to the point of no return, where our forefathers, where they were taken to the point that they got to, and when they get there, they can't come back again to Nigeria. From there, they are taken away. So we are going to that point now. But modernization and civilization has made it that it is no longer a point of no return. It is now a point of return because people go there and now return. So we too, we are going and we are going to return. Jetty. Journey to the point of no return, unknown destination. So from here, many of them do not know where they went, where they landed.
Don't their brain. Just be like you until they not get to the other side. Do not be.
What are we doing here?
What are we doing here?
It was a horrible experience, very, very horrible. That our own people, we have to sell their own brothers and sisters out for slavery, and even support them with African magic.
And that time, before the Atlantic slave trade,
yeah,
we have our own domestic slave.
Okay.
which is, and that time being a local chief.
Okay.
If they want to know how healthy is you,
Wealthy.
yeah, wealthy,
Okay.
they will know through your slave.
The number of slaves you
They
have.
call it Iwofa in
Okay.
Yoruba.
Okay.
Aha. So now the white people, they have their own too there. They call them Red Indians.
Okay.
But they are no more stronger than we Nigerians.
Okay.
Die. Over there, they put head together. Let's go to Africa. When they get here to Africa, they come to Africa through this place. This entrance. It was bushy that time. Thick
Forest.
So they now manage to get to that shore. They now discover that, wow, this place is an island.
Between surrounded by water.
So they manage themselves and move on to the mainland over there.
Okay.
So being the first time of our people, saying the white people, slave spirit, attenuation, well, wow, why taking our brothers and our sisters in diaspora to the shore?
Okay.
They, on their way coming, you know, some of them will be feeling tasty.
Okay.
So they stop them here and they force them to drink out of this well.
Okay. They drink from this.
Yeah, called attenuation well. They took out of this well, they drank out of this well, and they lost their memory. They
Okay.
look less aggressive until they get to white people country before they be submissive.
So was there something like a magic inside the water?
Yeah, the magic, African concoction, in conjunction with the local chief and the white people.
Okay.
I think they put something inside because we took the water to the lab,
Okay.
and we discovered that there's something inside.
So this is the tunnel.
Slave tunnel. Called slave tunnel.
Okay.
Call it the slave tunnel. During the days of slave trade. Welcome.
Thank you.
When they march those slaves from the lagoon shore over there down to the seashore here. March them through this door
Okay.
to the tunnel.
Okay.
So why the big ship in the middle of the sea? Because it can't come down. It can't come down. It will shallow. So they had a signal that the big ship is
On the ice.
arrive, march them from here down.
Okay.
The chain will be around the neck, the mouth will be clips.
Okay. They march them down from here. Okay.
Why they use small, they use canoe.
Okay.
They load them inside the canoe.
Okay.
They carry the canoe from here down to where the big ship is.
Okay.
So that's where they load them.
Okay.
Inside the
The
ship.
ship. This is the tunnel. They come directly from here.
Yeah, from there.
They come through here and they march them down. Okay. Wow.
So while arranging them, they'll be seeing the big ship.
Okay.
I see. Why am I quite moving? You know where we are going. Where we are heading to.
This is the tunnel where our ancestors, our African brothers and sisters, this is where they were kept while awaiting the European ships to take them out of the country. It is the point of no return. So when they get to this point, they are no longer coming back, because from here they sail directly here through the air of a canoe. They get to the level of the ocean, and so end the history of so many of our black brothers and sisters. So end their recognition of where they came from. The point of no return. This is the channel where the tunnel where they were kept. Human beings were kept here to be taken out of Africa. It's indeed a big one, as you can see. So they marked them right from the well, and they enter through this direction. While they wait for the ship that will take them.